Let me first thank everybody again for coming out. And one of the reasons that we're doing this, we're here today because one of these brothers or sisters is going to be city council for District B. And we're here to listen to the candidates, get to know the candidates, because it's not proper for us to any longer vote for somebody that we don't know. You know, it's time out for us voting for people that we don't know or a complete stranger. So we would not split, we would not be splitting, we would not be bickering. What we're attempting to do is, our communities have suffered, our schools are suffering, so therefore our children are suffering. Fifth Ward, Cashmere Garden, Trinity Gardens, City Gas, Rosewood, Greens Point, Acres Home, we all suffering from the same things. And politicians get in office and they make a lot of promises to you and I. And then they get in office and forget about the voters. So what we're doing now is, we put this together so that you all can be sincere about doing what you're saying you're gonna do, because we're not gonna vote for, everybody's not gonna win. There's only one person up here that's gonna actually become city council for District B. And we wish you all luck. We will no longer vote for anyone who doesn't have our best interests at heart, meaning District B and these communities. We would be voting as one, so that means that you won't be splitting our votes. We'll be voting as one. Before we get started with questions, I want to introduce to you a few people that's instrumental with me in my businesses. First is my banker, Katrina from BB&T. And the Honorable Lori Chambers Gray from the district courts. To let you all know that it don't matter what station that you hold in life, that we all unified. Now, we have a bunch of questions, but what we're gonna first do is let the candidates introduce themselves. We got to 9 o'clock, so we're not gonna be here all night. You know, we're not gonna do 10 minutes. You know, the only person gonna be talking long is me. You know, we're gonna let the candidates introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about themselves, why they wanna be city council for District B, and are they capable of holding this job? Because, you know, we all say that I believe that I'm the best, but I know that I'm probably not capable of doing certain things. So we're gonna allow for these brothers and sisters to introduce themselves to you all. We're gonna start with the sisters because that's how we do. Tasha?
Excuse me, I'm trying to fail to meet you. What is your name? Who are you?
Oh, my name is Russell Williams.
I'm sorry?
Russell Williams?
And you are the coordinator of this?
Yes, ma'am.
Russell Hill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Y'all can have a mic.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hill. Good evening. First, let me thank the host for putting this town hall on tonight. I'm really looking forward to tonight's discussion. My name is Tasha Jackson, and as I'm here, I'm running for Houston City Council District B. I was born and raised in District B, born in Acres Homes. I lived in Lakewood, and I currently live in Greens Point. I'm one of 16 children. I'm a single parent with 2 boys. I have 18 years of organizing experience and 12 years of mortgage lending experience. I'm a Six Sigma Green Belt, and currently I am a student at Texas Southern University majoring in political science. 18 years ago, my life changed after my 10-year-old special needs son was arrested at his elementary school for a classroom disruption. He spent a total of 2.5 years in the Texas Youth Commission. Like any mother, my child is my priority, so I went from being a working mom to a parent advocate, organizing other families to fight for our children. As a result, I was instrumental in getting legislation passed that prohibit counties from sending kids to the state on Class C misdemeanors. As well, we established a Parent Bill of Rights, and we got over 2,000 kids returned back into their communities in one day. And so what that fight taught me is that when we come together in a unified voice, anything is possible. And so over the last 6 years, years, I've been working with Texas Organizing Project, and we fought on issues within our community that you all care about, from affordable housing, jobs, preventing bus routes from shutting down, environmental hazard sites, you name it, we worked on it. And I have not just been fighting issues, but we've been winning on issues, and that's exactly what I plan to do once I'm in office. I plan on winning on the issues that we care about. I've been instrumental in getting a lot of elected officials in office, and this, as you said, they commit to doing certain things once they get in office, and when they get in office, they forget about what they committed to do. Even if you draft the policy agenda and hand it to them, they still don't do what they committed to do. So I will be different. I will make sure that it's not about me, it's about us coming together collectively and changing our community, and that's what I'm committed to do. So support Tasha Jackson for City Council District B. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Karin Kasi. I was born in St. Elizabeth's Hospital for Negroes on Lyons Avenue. I grew up through age 4 in an area that was called Ryan's Addition, that is actually Cashmere Gardens as well. I spent the rest of my life, through my younger years, through my teenage years, in the North Forest Independent School District. I grew up in Scenic Woods, the Scenic Woods area. Went to Rogers Elementary, Northwood Middle School. I graduated valedictorian of my class at Forest Brook High School and went on to study at Rice University. The job that I have done for the most of my life that I'm really proud of is having served as a church musician of my father's church in the Fifth Ward area. In fact, most of what I did in my life, I found a way to make sure that it allowed me to continue to do what I did at my dad's church. The situation that really made me start to think about the importance of having people who represent you in office was a battle that my church had against the city of Houston, actually. The city, of course, has been interested in improving various communities, and I support improvement, but I was really concerned about the approach that the city took in that particular situation. Our church had been there since 1966. My dad said that he had $10 in his pocket when he started the ministry. We were there for 66 years. In fact, the city of Houston divested from that region at the same moment that he put a down payment on the old Lions Theater building, which is on the corner of Lyons and Benson. When we realized what we were up against, I was appointed as a trustee of the church at that time to start looking for legal representation. Now, I tried to be respectful, and I went to every public official that I knew to go to. And I was really sad to find out that no one was interested in helping a church that had been there in the community all of those years. I took the situation to heart, and it really disappointed me to have to go outside the city of Houston to get support. I had to look for a legal organization that came from Dallas, Texas, to support a church in Fifth Ward. Never should we find ourselves seeking representation when we have elected officials to represent us. I have gone into that booth and pressed the straight Democratic ticket my entire voting life. And can I tell you, I've never had to actually engage our political officials in that way, and so I just presumed that since I've been voting all those years, we were gonna get some help. But I was very disappointed that we did not. In addition to that, I live right down the street in the Cashmere Gardens area, and I was very concerned. I've become very concerned as a person who lives here about the trash situation that we have. I've been told, well, call in. Well, I call in, and I post pictures, but that's not enough. There's something that has to happen that's systemic, and it has to come from people who really care about the people in this region. I understand as a historian that when cities are ready to take over a region, sometimes there's a deliberate, as even in the case of Fifth Ward, a deliberate attempt to remove itself, to divest from the region so that the region falls down. I know that that happens, and so I'm concerned because we're right near town. We're right near town, right here in Cashmere Gardens. This is a wonderful place to live. But I talked with a young lady just a little bit ago, and she said to me, Karin, she's a lawyer, she said, Karin, I was living in Cashmere Gardens, she said, but I had to leave because of the trash. Now, the other thing I'm also concerned about is the education of our children. I have been teaching for 33 years. I have taught in public schools. I went back to you know how people tell you need to come back and help your community? I went back to Smiley High School, and I taught for 3 years. I taught them everything that I wish I had known before I went to Rice University. I went on to teach at Texas Southern University, where I've been teaching for 24 years. And I must say that as a TSU professor, I am glad to see the impact that Texas Southern has on this panel here. We have representation from our institution right here. But I also want to say that I thank God for this opportunity to run. My husband actually started telling me, he's a native Russian. He told me when we moved out here, he said, Karin, Karin, you need to do something to help your community. I said, I'm an educator, I'm helping. He said, you need to do more. For 10 years, he told me this. I wanted to raise my son. I said, I have to wait until my son is a little older, because as mothers, we want to be able to be engaged in our children's lives. And so as my son is a little older now, I've decided this is the time. I'm at a wonderful place in my career at Texas Southern University. I'm very grateful for all that I've been able to accomplish. In fact, the bag that you see here, I've established a workshop, summer workshop on African American Texas history, and we have trained teachers from throughout various districts to participate in that. But again, with all that I've done as an educator, I realize that I can teach about violence, but I'm not in a position to stop the violence. You understand? I can teach about the issues that face our children, the criminal justice issues that face our children, but there's very little I can do beyond teaching, which is also important. I want to be engaged at this stage in my life in a very direct and important way in the lives of the citizens of District B. I have demonstrated throughout my life that I'm committed to the district. I was born here, I work here, and I live here. This is not someone asking me, do you just have a house in the district? No. I live in the district. I've been living here for 12 years. That is in this area, in the Cashmere Gardens area, but I've been living in the district my entire life. So I want you to vote for Karin Kasi Chirnashev, the one with the funny name, KKC for District B. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm gonna stand. I think I feel more comfortable standing. My name is Renee Jefferson Smith, and I am running to be your next City Councilwoman for District B. First, let me thank the individuals that have put on this forum. Let me also congratulate those that have stepped up and made a decision to run for office. And I understand that a lot of them have prepared a very long time to run for office. Unlike those individuals, I can't tell you that I dreamed about becoming a politician. The idea to run had never been a sight of mine. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a small business owner. I own a weight loss clinic in the Rice Village district, but I've lived in District B all of my life. I'm originally from the Acres Home community, and when I got married to my husband, and let me thank my husband and my mother and my other family members for being here, but when I got married to my husband, I moved to the Trinity Garden community. What's interesting about that is later on I found out that both of our families originated out of Fifth Ward. My family moved to Acres Home and I want to say in the early 1940s, and his family presided here in Fifth Ward, Cashmere Garden, and then moved to Trinity Garden, which is where we live right now in between Laura Copy and Titwell. And so when I ended up moving to Trinity Garden, and knowing that I'm a fighter and have had to hurdle different things in life, one of the things that I took notice of was from Acres Home to Trinity Garden to Fifth Ward to Cashmere Garden, there was no difference. I grew up in Acres Home in Montgomery Terrace right behind the police station. One of the things that I realized is that we're under-resourced, we're underserved, and we're underprivileged. We don't have the economic development that we need in our communities. As a business owner, we don't have the businesses that we need to thrive to preserve the tax dollars in our communities. Our schools are going down, the neighborhood preservation, gentrification. We have seniors that are in need. We need someone that's going to advocate for the seniors. So again, when I notice these issues, and here's the thing, like many of you, that have probably inherited property. My husband and I inherited our home. We're young. We are just like everybody out here. And we talked about the idea of moving maybe to Humble, moving maybe to another community. But I told Demetrius, I said, we're gonna stay right here because our legacy and our generations is what's important. Now, my husband is not as outspoken as I am and maybe not as engaged, but he supports me in my decisions. So When Harvey hit, I immediately had boots on the ground. And here's the things that I've done throughout my life honestly have prepared me for this moment. My mother is sitting here, and she'll tell you I was the first person to bring homeless children home. My grandmother worked at Kincaid for 40, 50-something years, serving the homeless population, helping the senior citizens. So things that I have done or things that you may know, those are genuine. That's natural because there's a need for those things. And that's what I continue to plan to do as the next city council person. I think that it takes someone who has the intellect, the understanding, and the heart to be able to go out and build relationships. It takes time to mend those relationships together, to foster those relationships. We don't have everything that we need in our community, so we need someone who's gonna go out and bring those ideas back into our community. And so, you know, I think I said I have 3 children. I have, and a son that we adopted, actually, we have 4. One that's at UTSA in dental school. I have a daughter who's 19 years old at Tuskegee University. I have a son who's 14, who goes to school right here in 5th Ward. And then I have a 7-year-old. And I teach my children that. And so we have never had anyone to truly advocate for us. And I think I fall in the middle of that. I'm not necessarily a little bit over the hill. I'm just at the right age. And I think that we need someone that can translate and be able to communicate. And just like all of these individuals, I've had hurdles in my life. I'll share one of them with you. And I think this is probably the biggest one. I got married at 18 years old. I had triplets at 20 years old, naturally. I lost those triplets because everyone's going to have a special story to tell, so I don't want to miss out on my moment to share mine. I had triplets naturally. I delivered them. My pregnancy was 1 out of 100,000. I buried them 7 days later. And with all things in life, regardless to whether you've been prepared for them or not, God will prepare you for moments that He has set up for you in your life. And so this is that moment. And I would love your support. I would love for you to visit my website, which is Jefferson Smith for Houston. Become more engaged with me. Ask any questions that you have. Get to know me personally. And just stay tuned and get to know the candidates. Get to know who's going to be your next representative, who's going to support you, who's going to fight for you, who's going to help grow your community. This election is pivotal to our district. It's an open seat. And we have to elect the right person. And it's about who do you feel is capable of getting the job done, bringing the resources that's needed for us to be a thriving community, a community in which people want to move back into. I'm here. I've been here all of my life, but there's people that want to come back here. We need to have affordable homes. We need to have mixed income housing. We need to have beautification within our neighborhoods. Our seniors are on a fixed income. They don't need to worry about if leaks are falling from their roofs. We need programs that will help support our senior citizens. We need a business incubator that's going to teach vocational and technology. Not all children are going to a four-year university. That's my cue. Thank you. So please, I would love your support and vote for Renee Jefferson Smith for Houston City Council District B.
What's the time frame on the speakers, please? Is it just gonna be introductions and then we go into?
Yeah, because they politicians, ain't they?
They are.
They politicians.
7:30.
Yeah.
What's the time frame?
Let's give them 2 minutes. Keep up with it. Yes.
Now you gonna start, you gonna give a time frame when it's my turn. Good evening, everybody. My name is Alvin Byrd, and I'm running for Houston City Council District B. Grew up in this district, lived in this district. I'm 66 years old, man, and I basically lived all over this district. Grew up in 5th Ward in a place called Pearl Harbor. And one of the things that is most important to me is the fact that folks who helped bring me up still inspire me today. Haven't always wore a suit and tie, man. I'm just letting you know. Had an opportunity to be blessed to live 2 lives in one lifetime. And the thing of it is that one thing I notice about this district, and I've had an opportunity to serve this district in many capacities. Most of you out here know me, and not all of you know me from being a chief of staff in Councilmember Johnson's office, or working as a constituent services director, or working in Department of Neighborhoods. But I used to be your garbage man. I bumped trash for 4 years. And the thing of it is that in my community where I grew up in 5th Ward, and what I did, I passed out my resume. I got the shiny card, with all the good stuff on it. But if I want to work for you, one of the first things you need to do is know who I am. So I gave you a resume on some stock white paper. Had an opportunity to see both sides of this deal. I was the first president of the Greater 5th Ward Super Neighborhood Council, and I served in that capacity for 5 years. Then on the other side of that, I got a chance to work in 2 different departments of your core services, as I said, in solid waste. And then also right now, I work in the Department of Neighborhoods, where I'm the liaison for 4 different council districts and 2 at-large council members. So I get an opportunity to see all over this city some best case practices. Also, I'm gonna be a little hesitant to say that, folks who preceded us or people who were elected prior to this, that they didn't do everything right, but they didn't do everything wrong either. One thing I know for sure is that you guys made the right choice because you voted them in office. So, and I respect that. That's the will of the people. I had an opportunity to run for city council in 2010. Made it to the runoff with our present council member, Jerry Davis. Got sick, diabetes, and didn't finish. I dealt with my reconciliation with my anger with God because, I wanted it more than, I would care to admit. However, after that reconciliation, I got an opportunity to understand what humility was, and I got behind the leadership. I did not go after Jerry or any other time that the seat was open. My experience is being on both sides of this deal. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, there's a lot of discrepancies. But I tell you this, one of the things I see that's most important, and we could talk about community development and all other aspects that would make this community better. But one thing I see that if we've tried it, we haven't addressed it properly, is that the district, we don't know each other. Pleasantville don't know Bordersville. The gardens, Cashmere Garden, Houston Garden, and Trinity Garden, they don't know the people in Acres Homes. Armstrong Acres don't know the people in Northwood Manor. They right next to each other. The power of our district is just like fingers on a hand, separate but equal. But once we fold those fingers into a powerful fist, then we could do whatever we want to do. Let me just say this to you. I've been called an insider simply because of the fact that I was positioned to work in downtown City Hall. Somebody called me that the other day. I was at a forum, and not a forum, but speaking engagement, and somebody say, yeah, you work up there with those folks. Let me tell you this. It's about time we get somebody who's been up there with those folks. Because the thing of it is that it's different in the community when you're out here advocating, but when you get to that horseshoe and you have to, negotiate and build consensus with other council members just so you can get what you need to get for your district. My time is up as well? Because I can go all day.
We ain't got all night.
Ooh. Oh.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben White Jr. I'm a resident of the Fifth Ward, originally. I was born and raised at 4500 Raleigh with my other 6 siblings, where I still reside. Now, let me tell you a little something about me. Basically, I got involved in community service fighting the city of Houston. That was a vacant lot next door to my home, and it's still vacant. And the city of Houston would only cut it once a year. And I would be so upset that I would call the inspector every time it got 9 inches because I knew the rules. And one day, me and this inspector got into it, and he told me straight out, well, Mr. White, why don't you cut that lot yourself? So I did. I started cutting the lot myself, and one day he passed by and he told me, he said, Mr. White, you know you trespassing. And I got so upset that I wrote a letter to, at that time, Mayor Bob Lanier. And I told him the process that the city has to mow the lot, and because I knew the in and outs of the city and the routine and how it works. So he wrote me back. He wrote me back and he said, Mr. White, I understand. He said, when I grew up, that's the way it was at my house. He said, I had to mow the lawn, and when the neighbors didn't mow the lawn, my father made me mow their lawn. So with that, a program started. It was called the Adopt a Lot program. The Adopt a Lot program started because I insist on the lot next door to me being mowed. And from that spinoff was the Fifth Ward Civic Club. I'm one of the founders of the Fifth Ward Civic Club, and now I'm the chairman of the board. That started out of anger. What happened at that meeting was that I began to see things. And see, what District B needs right now is a visionary. I'm that visionary because that civic club is still growing strong. In 1997, the people saw me working in that community.
You still got a minute. You got a minute. You got a minute. Go ahead. Which one?
Excuse me. Let's let them talk. If they go over a minute, it's okay.
Well, I was.
Set those rules, brother.
Well, it seemed like the rule is being set on me because I know all these people talk much longer than I did.
Finish, Ben.
So anyway, from there, I went on to the Julia C. Hust House. As y'all know, that at that time in 1997, that place was in horrible condition. I had the vision to see that wellness center. I was there when we drove the plans up for that wellness center. I was the executive director at that time. Right now, during my leadership, we raised $2.2 million under my leadership. That building, the cost of that building was $7 million. From there, in 2011, I was chosen as one of the original board members for the Near North Side Management District. The Near North Side Management District encompassed Fifth Ward and parts of Cashmere Garden. So for the last 25 years, I've been on this campaign for my community. What I'm asking you at this time is to keep allowing me to work for the community, but let's expand me to work for the entire District B. In closing, I will say this. I'm not gonna make any promises for this job. The only thing that I'm gonna tell you is that I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna listen to the people, and I won't be your voice when I go to City Hall. Thank you.
Step it down that way. Step it down that way.
I want to stand up to you. I've been at work all day. I work at FedEx, and I had about 90 stops today, so I'm a little tired. I'm going to get up and let my blood flow. My name is Robin J. Anderson, and I'm running for Houston City Council District B. My goal, my desire is to bring more unity to our community. And what I mean by that is that we're too segmented. We're too segmented. Like, just think about it. If we all out right now, go outside and go knock on some doors and say, hey, are you registered to vote? Doing it as a whole, we get more people, we get more involvement. So how I got into so-called politics, first of all, let me do a little history. If you do the etymology of the name of the word politics, poly means many, ticks mean blood-sucking parasite. So that should tell you why certain things are getting done. I'm not a politician by any means. So either way, so I went to Prairie View, I majored in political science. I had a professor who was, he was actually in an organization called NCOBRA, which is National Coalition of Blacks Reparations of America. Long story short, he said, Robin, what are you gonna do with this knowledge, this information, this degree? I said, I'm not sure, Dr. Overdale. He said, well, look, go back to your community. So I came back to the community, I got involved. I was voted into as the super neighborhood vice president. I sat there for 4 years. When I got in there, the first thing I noticed, I was like, where's the youth? I didn't see any youth. It was more seasoned people. I don't like to say senior citizens, but they were more seasoned. So I was like, what can I do to bridge this gap between the senior citizens, the seasoned people, and the youth? So I came up with an idea of a tree lighting ceremony. So that way, everybody comes in to get involved. So I went to the schools, I went to some local businesses, so what we do at the tree lighting, we give out toys to those less fortunate, we give out food, and then the schools can actually advocate and bring their programs out, the bands, the dance groups, things like that. And so my goal is to bring more advocacy to the city as well. We gotta go back to the roots of what this thing is. Most of these problems start in our homes. We gotta figure it out, how can we bring that family nucleus back together? You know what I mean? But either way, I know we're pressed for time. My name is Robin J. Anderson, Houston City Council District B. Thank you.
My name is Broderick Butler. I grew up in Scenic Wood. We moved from Hare Street to Scenic Wood in 1970. Went to school at Forest Brook, graduated, went to school at the University of Texas at Austin, came back home. My neighborhood still looks like it does in 1970. So I got a problem. I live in Scenic Wood currently today. We look 30 years back like we're in 1970. So right now, I got a problem. This is not how this is supposed to be. I am sick and tired and sick of inexperienced, inexcusable political leaders that I have no problem with you making money. I do have a problem with you being greedy. And so far, anybody that comes into District B, the rule should be District B decides for District B. If you come into this community, you get vetted. And you can make money, but you can't be greedy. And you have to do something for this community. So it's 2019, and my neighborhood still looks like it does when my daddy bought a house in Scenic Wood in 1970. My high school doesn't exist anymore. My middle school doesn't exist anymore. My elementary school doesn't exist anymore. I'd like for them to come back, but they're not. So I gotta move forward. But we're losing schools in this district. The ones we have are inadequate. We still have crime. And when you talk about economic development, it's a dirty phrase. That's not how this is supposed to be. And again, District B should decide for District B. Anybody who puts a candidate in District B that's from the south side, the west side, or the north side, that's not a District B candidate. You get your money from who you get your money from. That's not a problem. But like I said, I question where your loyalties lie. So if y'all want a revolution, if y'all want to change this, we need to decide for District B at this point in time, whoever we elect, that person goes down and fights for District B. That's all I got to say. Got questions for me later.
Good deal, baby. Thank you. First question is from Erica Hubbard. What we want the candidates to do is to be, we don't want the politically correct answer, because y'all not politicians yet. You know, and we don't want the lies, because y'all not politicians yet. We want honesty. We want honesty. If you can't do it, you can't do it. This is what Erica Hubbard asked. She said, how do you plan to approach gentrification and displacement issues in Fifth Ward while balancing growth?
That's a great question. Repeat, I just want to make sure I get both parts of it.
Erica Hubbard asks, how do you plan to approach gentrification and displacement issues in Fifth Ward while balancing growth?
Oh, this is a wonderful question. Now, one of the things I want to say right away is that when you talk about gentrification, in fact, when our church was going through the battle, I invited a scholar at Texas Southern to talk to the community about gentrification. Gentrification is a very violent process. Now, there are ways that they try to make it look nice, but whenever you're taking people's property or taxing them out, that doesn't feel good. The other part, this is another part that we have to understand. When we talk about what happens in a community, it really depends on who owns the land. It goes down to land ownership, okay? Who owns the land? Renting is not owning. Okay, renting is not owning. Now, you can rent and feel real connected to the community, but if you don't own, and your apartment, the person who owns your apartment chooses to sell it, you just gotta go. Okay, so I wanna say this because it's very important for us to understand as African Americans. We went through a dramatic transformation from being property to owning property. That's a huge change, from being property to owning property. Learning how to own is a very important process. This gentleman mentioned the issue of the fact that he was living, I believe, in the place where his parents live. I see this happening in this area all the time. There are instances where family members own property, but they don't really pass it down as they should. They don't leave wills. And so the property, the taxes start to accumulate, and guess what? It ends up on the auction block downtown. When I was helping my father purchase property for around the church area, it was really interesting to me. The people who were there buying the property did not look like us. So when we talk about what we see on the surface, we also have to talk about who owns the land. We have to face it. If you don't own it, you don't control it. So if you own the property, just imagine, I come to you and I say, well, I've been here for 50 years and I want you to respect my culture and I want you to respect my ideas. I'm looking at you like, okay, do I really have to? Am I forced to? If you don't own it, you don't get to say what happens to it.
Thank
That's
you.
just the bottom line.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, so
Let me repeat this question.
okay.
I'm asking questions, and we're not looking for a sermon. We want answers to the questions, because these are questions that brothers and sisters have presented to us.
Right.
If you don't have an answer to the question, then we ask that you pass the mic.
Right.
Answer the questions. I'm gonna ask this question again. Erica Hubbard says, how do you plan to approach gentrification and displacement issues in Fifth Ward while balancing growth? Now, this is a simple question because we know what they're doing in Fifth Ward.
Right.
You know, and you saying that you're running for District B. Fifth Ward is in District B. No.
Okay, so
We want to know what you plan on doing.
okay, so I'm gonna use an example of after Hurricane Ike hit. Of course, developers, the first round of tax dollars, developers, you know, all the money went to the developers, not single-family homeowners. And so community came together and they fought and they won an additional $200 million in disaster recovery round $2. A lot of these dollars went to developers in tax credits, right? And so basically the community, we tried to negotiate with some of these developers. And I'm gonna use the developer Frank Liu, who actually owns a lot of property in this area. Frank Liu, he have that MDI site, and he was gonna put 400 market rate houses on the MDI site. And you know what market rate is? $300,000, $400,000 houses, right? And so the community basically said, no, Frank Liu, you can't do this. You're getting our tax dollars. In additional to, I think it was like $17 million in infrastructure money. We need to make sure that the community benefit from the dollars that you're getting. This is our money. Frank Liu was like, no, you're not getting these dollars. So we went to our city council reps, and we was like, we need community benefits agreements from these developers to make sure that the community is benefiting from our money. Frank Liu committed, it was a verbal commitment. Neil Ratcliffe was the housing director. It was, he committed to doing 50 affordable houses, and it was like verbally, and in addition to the 400 that he was going to build on this MDI site. So we just found out last week that, a month ago, that Frank Liu is not giving us any affordable houses on the MDI site. Now, if our leadership would demand community benefits agreements when we giving our dollars away, that would prevent the gentrification. Now, we fought the Clemmy Manor apartment complex. We fought to make sure the Clemmy Manor apartment complex is rehabbed after disaster recovery round 2, because they was just gonna leave it be. At some point, we have to have affordable housing in our neighborhoods to prevent gentrification. And in order to make that happen, like I said, our leadership have to support these community benefits agreements, and that's what I'm gonna fight for.
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Erica Hubbard asks, how do you plan to approach gentrification and displacement issues in Fifth Ward while balancing growth?
Okay. So first of all, I think one of the ways to tackle the issues of gentrification is to provide education. And I may piggyback on some things that Karin said. We need to educate our constituents on the right to obtain a will, understanding what happens when you inherit property, understanding the process of a probating your will. Because unfortunately, there's not enough education and there's not enough people and seniors obtaining wills. And so when you have millennials and Gen X and family members inheriting property, that property is coming with taxes that are old. And they may not be financially stable to pay those taxes. And that comes from a lack of education in the community. And therefore, they find themselves losing the properties. They set up payment plans, can't keep up with the payment plans, have letters and paraphernalia coming in the mail, and they end up losing the property. Another way that I think that we can help tackle and embrace or bring balance to the issue of gentrification is creating additional TERS areas in the community. We need more tax increment reinvestment zones. We only have 2 of them right now. One in Greenspoint, which we know economically Greenspoint is going down, and then we have one in Fifth Ward. I think working with developers that have a vested interest in the people of District B, making sure that we're bringing more affordable housing. And education is key. We have to help our constituents understand that affordable homes are no longer $50,000. They're no longer $80,000, but making sure that we have affordable homes in which people can afford, and they have the right and they can afford to move back into the community along with the mixed income housing that already exists. And so my plan is to make sure that I am working with developers that have a vested interest in the people of District B, that I'm working with the mayor as well as a senator to make sure that we can create additional TERS areas to help preserve the tax dollars and the legacies of the work that our people have already carved into the ground in District B.
Sister, what's your name, KK?
Yeah, you can go KK.
Yeah, Sister KK. She hit it right on the head. There's some facts that a lot of us don't want to face. And once we get to the reality, then we can start to talk about real solutions. If there was a wildfire, and we've seen them all, these fire disasters on television, and these firefighters, the way to contain the fires, they set other fires. There's a revolution going on in Acres Homes. When the last time y'all been to Acres Homes? Acres Home, well, you know what I'm talking about, Sister Sandra. Acres Homes is fighting the fire with the fire. When we start talking about gentrification, some folks want to confuse that with renovation or revitalization. Let's just face it. Here's the bottom line. Power concedes to nothing without demand. You don't come to the meetings when Tasha and Top or whoever the group is come in and say, we need you to come collectively so we could stop this bulldozer, so we could stop this, the bottom. I grew up over there, and I'm telling you, at one point, that's the place nobody wants to live. Matter of fact, they don't even call it the bottom no more. It's called East Bio Place. And if you ain't on next door, and what the hell is next door? All I'm saying is this: these problems that exist from gentrification to illegal dumping, we got to step up, people. We got to step up, people. Don't be waiting on folks to come, do what you can be doing. We want our elected officials to, show up and take pictures at the banquet, but it's a little bit more than that. It's a little bit more than that. Oh, so how am I going to do it? I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to help me do it.
I'm gonna have to talk fast because it starts, I only have a minute and 59 seconds. But gentrification started with us stop being stupid. Yes, simple as that. The bottom line is the home that I lived in, my mother paid for it. And she passed it down to me. So it's my responsibility to keep it. The land once belonged to us. Fifth Ward once belongs to us. And we gave it away. The people came and paid little or nothing for that money because they went down to the tax auction and got that property for $2,000-$3,000. So the bottom line is when people ask me about gentrification in Fifth Ward, I tell them, look at yourself. The bottom line is you owned it and you gave it away. So the bottom line is I kept mine. There's some other people in our neighborhood, we kept ours. And we kept it up. And we stayed to now. Fifth Ward is the community of choice because people like myself and some others stayed to the point where we worked in that community to make it where you wanted to move back. You shouldn't have left. That's the bottom line. So if I give you a quick example, there's some young men that live on the opposite side of me. Their grandmother passed and left them that home. They came over to ask me about a contractor because they wanted the contractor to do some work on the home. And the first thing I told them is before you pay a contractor, you need to pay a lawyer. You need to pay a lawyer to get your grandmother's home probated and put in you guys' home so that y'all can finish paying for it because she did not leave it paid for. It is my job to educate those people that's in my community that has property to tell them about the wheels and things like that and paying the taxes because most of them take an easier, softer way because grandma was tax exempt. So they don't go down there and tear Harris County so they won't have to pay taxes. And by the time when the county feel like that the grandma can't be 200 years old, you owe all those taxes and they can't pay it. So we need to educate our community on what to do when we inherit property. Thank you.
My answer is going to be short and sweet. I've worked with our local CDC. We have to engage people to become homeowners. We have too many transient livers. If you're a transient liver, you don't have any ownership in the community, so you're just moving and going. So when you get some stability, get some home ownership, people start being more engaged in their civic clubs, the super neighborhoods. It's real simple. Home ownership and pay taxes, exactly. So That's what I've been doing so far. I've been doing the work, helping our community to get involved and to become homeowners, period, point blank.
All right, I've already answered this before. You vet the people that come into your community. You hold them accountable. If developers come in, you ask them, you will make money, but you can't be greedy. You have to figure out for every dollar you spend, what are you going to do? Sir, we're just gonna put up an office park. Then you also have to put a park next to that office park. Sir, we're gonna put a strip mall in. You have to donate into the land trust fund if you're going to do that. But that's not our business. Then you won't be doing business in District B if you can't do that. Secondly, y'all need to be realistic and pragmatic. Individuals were in here in District B in 1920 that didn't look like us. Then we came, and other folk are coming. There's a young lady in the back. She is the future. Her daughter is the future. So you're gonna have to make space for people. But one of the things I learned, Pleasantville, y'all in the back, we had that conversation. Fifth Ward, gonna have that conversation. For the people that are there, y'all gotta stop fighting. If they're new, tell them to respect the traditions. If they're old, work with them and tell them build a project that we approve. But y'all ain't gotta like each other. Y'all ain't gotta love each other. But when it's Fifth Ward, you stand up together. When it's Pleasantville, you stand up together. After that, be realistic. There are plots in some of your neighborhoods that are 1.2 acres. Beautiful. These people want it. So you have to understand and come up with a strategy to be realistic. Educate some people, but everybody wants to make the new generation better. So everybody moved out to the suburbs. Everybody's in these wonderful mega churches outside the city limits. You did right by your family. Sadly, your family has progressed on. They're not looking back. Educate them to understand that they're not making any more land. It's valuable. But it's very hard to get somebody who's driving a car, got a household income of $100,000, living outside the city, to go back to the old neighborhood. Why? Because that's where that wealth that started, that got you where you are, is. People, as Malcolm X said, are gonna stop giving you their children's jobs. They're gonna come back for their land. So you have to come up with a strategy to welcome everybody, to be realistic and pragmatic. But again, I already answered this question. Vet everybody that comes into District B. And if they are not for District B, then they can't do business here.
Thank you.
District B is one of the biggest districts in Houston.
Ladies first.
And the poorest.
Renee.
Are you all just looking for a job? Or are you all for the community? And this question was asked because the people that I speak to says that everybody is liars. You know, I mean, and they vote, and I encourage people to vote. You know, vote. Hey, you register to vote, and they say for what? And they say that you all say that your votes count, and it do count. But once we vote for an individual, then that individual turns his back on the community, gets in office for his own political gains. What do you say that can convince us that you are not that person that's gonna get in office and find out that politics ain't what you thought it was because you're not a politician right now? And when you stand up and take that oath, are you gonna turn your back on this community? Because one guy says that everybody has. And me, myself, I'm from 4902 Lee Street. I'm from Fifth Ward. And where I stayed at don't even exist anymore. The only house that exists on Lee Street where I used to stay at is Keith's house. So they are wondering, are you gonna get in City Hall and turn your back on this community? That's the question.
Okay, so I'll take this question first. As I stated, and some of you may have just come in or didn't hear my introductory speech, I have 4 children, and 2 of them are off in college, and I have 2 that are at home. I grew up in this community. I grew up in this district. I've lived in this district all of my life. I'm 100% committed to this district. I'm a small business owner. I have no infrastructure in place to get into City Hall that's gonna benefit me. I have no relationships down there that are gonna benefit me. When I go and help individuals in the district, I'm not being paid to do it. And I say that in no shade or disrespect on anybody, but there are some people up here that work for the city and they work for organizations and their job automatically pays them to do what they do. There's a couple of people here in the audience that know, and you guys may have seen this on the news. We had a 70-year-old lady out in the Bordersville community that was facing eviction due to some issues going on with her home. I left a Civic Club meeting that was in Pleasantville last night, and I drove to her house at Bordersville. I had my husband in the back texting me, when was I coming home? I got home at 10:30 because I understand the importance of her being able to save her legacy, her investment, as well as what's important to her for the next generation. So the point is, I don't receive a check to do anything. When I get out of my bed, I get out of my bed and I help the people in District B because I'm committed to that. Not just District B, but people throughout the city of Houston. There are people that are in need. I'm a resident here. You may see me in flip-flops and shorts one day at Family Dollar to go get a loaf of bread or eggs on Hirsch Road in Tidwell, because those are the options that I have. We keeping it real, right? Those are the options that I have. I'm sorry, I want. Well, you know what? I actually grew up in Rushwood. I'm a member at New Light Christian Center. I know all about Greenspoint, worked at Contempo when Greenspoint Mall was thriving. And the point is that I don't just represent Cashmere Garden, Trinity Garden, Bordersville, City Gas. I want to represent District B. It's not about one community. Yes, I'm from Acres Home, but this is about unity. So when we stand up to fight, I heard Broderick say we need to represent Pleasantville, we need to represent Fifth Ward. We need unity, as what Robin said, in the community. And I'm 100% committed. Win or lose, I'm gonna go back to running my business as I've done before, because I'm not working for anybody. I'm a standalone candidate in this race.
Okay, so as I said earlier, I started before organizing. I worked at General Electric and Wells Fargo. I was in the real estate industry, or actually mortgage lending. And when my son became involved with the juvenile justice system, I quit my job to fight for change within Texas's juvenile justice system. So I had to go become self-employed. I got my loan officer license, and I did a loan here and there to pay my bills. And so when the market crashed, of course, you know what happened. I mean, about 10% of the United States was unemployed, and it was difficult to bounce back. And so it took about a good 5 or 6 years before I was able to find a job to pay me, and I thank God that there was an organization, a nonprofit organization, Texas Organizing Project, that offered me a job so that I can continue fighting for my community. So today I am self-employed again so that I can run for office, and even if I don't win, I will continue to fight for my community. And so I'm here, dedicated, have been dedicated, and yeah, I will continue to fight and work with my community. Thank you.
I am employed by the state of Texas. I teach at Texas Southern University. Working a city council person is a part-time job. So I will be able to continue my job as a professor. I will say this, when I win. When I win, I have talked to so many wonderful people, and to avoid the problem that you've discussed, I'm bringing District B with me. Okay, so that I'm not turning my back on District B. And what do I mean? Those people that I'm talking to in the community who have come up with great ideas, as we've discussed different issues, the issue of economic empowerment, people who have expertise in these various areas related to education. I want to make sure that those people are working with me and helping me as I work as city council person. So it's not an issue of my turning my back on the community. The community is going to go into city council with me. And I invite any of these candidates who happen not to win to join me as I continue to work for the community and make sure that what I do is representing the community.
I have a commercial out there, and it starts off, it's like, I'm here to serve and not be served. You know, I work at FedEx, I work a job, you know, I actually have I have a t-shirt company in the community as well in District B on West Montgomery. I sell Greek paraphernalia, you know, I make shirts, things like that. And so I have a vested interest, you know, hold me accountable. I have integrity. People who know me say, when Rob tell you he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it. You know, I don't have it in me to turn my back. I wasn't raised that way. My mother and father didn't raise me that way. My father's sitting right there in the back. He can tell you, you know, hey, raise your hand, Pop. All right. But either way, but no, hold me accountable. That's the only thing I know how to do is to give back to my community, you know. So I'm not going anywhere. When I win, I hope that everybody on this panel, we all can come together and come up with some ideas to galvanize everybody and say, hey, look, y'all, what can we do to make this district stronger? So I'm not going anywhere. Thank you.
Well, repeat the question.
The money.
Repeat.
The money. We already turned around. The question is about the money.
Repeat
We're
it.
gonna sell out
Will you repeat the
and
question,
start
Mr.
taking
Hill?
money under the table. That's what we're talking about. So come on, it's 8 o'clock.
The question is, Ben, is once you,
No, hold up, it's 8 o'clock. We got a lot more to go.
You can't answer if you're talking.
No, I'm not.
oh, come on now, Ronnie, come here for a minute, Ronnie. Yeah. I want to introduce y'all to a good friend of mine. This is a really good friend of mine. No, this is Ronnie Jones. What I'm trying to show you all is that we are one. We got everybody in here. Now, he's not here for security. He's here because he's one of us. Y'all remember I introduced y'all to Judge Lori Chambers Gray. You know why she's here? She's not sitting on a bench. She's here because she's participating in the process. So let's show these brothers and sisters some respect. And let's keep it quiet. Let's keep it real. We're trying to elect a city councilman person for our district that's gonna do something for us. So don't be heckling these people.
We know that. I think you're misrepresenting.
No. Yeah, we're trying to.
Go ahead and ask the question.
The question was, thanks, Ronnie. Thanks for coming.
No, you're talking too. Go ahead and ask the question.
Ben, the question was, and we'll make it a short question, that once you become city councilman for District B, are you gonna do like everyone else and turn your back on the community?
No. No. The answer is no.
Okay.
I have no reason to. I am very fortunate. I'm blessed. I'm a rich man. I have everything that money can't buy. I have no reason to steal. Okay? Will I turn my back on District B? No. Let me tell you this. This is one thing I will not do. I will not pray for this job. Reason being, I already know that once I get the job, I'm putting my heart and soul in the job. Every day, every night, waking up in the middle of the night, I'm gonna be thinking about District B. Going to bed at night, I'm gonna be thinking about District B. Waking up in the morning, I'm gonna be thinking about District B. District B gonna be everything that I do. I have nothing else to do. That is the reason why I'm running for City Council District B.
Thank you, Ben. In regards to the question, absolutely not. That's my answer. I've had the opportunity to work in District B as my avocation and my vocation. I make no apologies for the position God has put me in to get an opportunity to work in places where I used to walk around up there and wonder if this is gonna be the day that they find out that I ain't supposed to be up there. Now, let me say this to you. Leadership is through service. That's why I'm glad. Matter of fact, I'm ecstatic that I brought my resume for you so you could see the service that I've done in this district before I got a job. Before I got a job at City Hall. And here's the deal. See, you want to think about the glitz and glamour of it. Y'all don't talk about when Byrd was working on that garbage truck spraying that disinfectant on my hand every day. I served this district in many capacities. And listen, here's one deal. Does that mean that I'm a sellout? Or does that mean that I've been blessed? I got favor. For a guy like me to be in the position I'm in, you better ask somebody how, man, here.
I thank Mr. Byrd. So the answer to your question and the one that you put up, my answer is no, but it's real simple. Ruby J. Butler. That's my mama. All of us up here understand the rule. Never embarrass your family. But you look down the long list, I've already answered the question. You can make money in District B. You can't be greedy. For every dollar you make, you gotta do something for District B. And ma'am, I'm sorry to let you know, with no disrespect, they don't care about Greenspoint. So you gotta make them care about Greenspoint. Okay? That's the truth. But you gotta make them care. Because the district is comprised of a lot of different neighborhoods and a lot of different places. But when that flood hit, everybody turns to me. Did you see what they did to them people? I go, yeah, I saw what they did to them. It ain't about what you tell me, it's about what you show me. You can show me better than you can tell me. So real quick, you don't embarrass your family name. I got a 76-year-old mom. If I can't explain it to her, I don't know what I'm talking about. So real quickly, in regards to this money thing, again, you can't get bought because it ain't gonna work like that. It just can't work like that. Because all the people we've had in the past, they've been greedy. And y'all know it, and we know it. And it's gotta stop, because today is a new day. It's gotta stop. I'm sick and tired. Why you think I'm standing up here? Why you think the rest of us should be standing up here? But truth gonna come to light. Stuff happens. You can't turn your back on the community and here's the last thing about this. For all of these people that want this job, and I hope they agree with me, this is like stepping off a cliff on faith. If you do this job right, you gotta go back and change 30 years of neglect going forward. You gotta bring in new people. You gotta have the people that are there comfortable. And you gotta do this job without worrying about can't see mornings, can't see night. You gotta take care of the children. I got people talking to me about HISD. I go, well, the city doesn't work on HISD, but the stories they told me. So again, you can make money in District B, but you can't be greedy.
One question is, how can we keep our affordable houses affordable? Did everybody speak? How can we keep our affordable houses affordable? What does a person building a $350,000 house with amenities cause my $50,000 home to get reevaluated to $200,000? What do we do about that?
Yeah.
That's a Well, that's a question that one of these brothers and sisters asked.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take a stab at it.
Let-
I'll do it. First and foremost, this whole housing issue, there's a lot of education that needs to be brought forth. A lot of true education need to be brought forth. Housing is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Why do you think they went from talking about gentrification and redevelopment, now we got an opportunity zone, and that's another tax credit type deal? Quit telling people about affordable housing and not tell them, can you afford to pay the note? Can you afford to pay the note? There are agencies and organizations out there that we need to tap into their expertise. And the way we do that, we trust, then we verify if this information is good or not. Appreciate you, sir. But hold on. Here's one thing. Without question, District B has the most undeveloped property in the city of Houston. We were talking about gentrification or revitalization, whatever you want to call it. We have no protection mechanisms in place. We're not deed restricted. We don't know about minimum lot size. Chapter 40, well, some of us do, but more of us need to be informed on this stuff. And here's the deal. These are City of Houston issues. That's why you need somebody as a conduit to go get the information, bring it back, and be civically responsible. You guys need to come to the meeting. That's right. Come to the meeting. Quit talking about the stuff in the parking lot. Why they, taking all our goodies while we sleeping and jugging at each other. Jugging is a word. Is it a word, Stephanie? Yeah.
Tonight it is.
Yeah, jugging. Quit jugging at each other. This affordable housing deal and these loft townhomes and all these different classifications of homes, these terms are relative. Because what is affordable housing to you may not be to me. A townhome loft may be somebody's way of saying, I made it. It's okay for people to progress. It's all right to do that. This brother said it. Man, I got a new N word for you. It's called neighbor. These folks that's moving in the neighborhood, they ain't going nowhere. So we're going to have to learn to live together or we going to perish as fools. Y'all know how that thing go. And it's enough fragmentation as it is. At some point, we got to address this as a district. As a district. Because our district is only as strong as its weakest neighborhood. Not its best neighborhood, its weakest neighborhood. Push up on that.
Tosh.
I think there's some other people that want to say some things, but real quick, your point was, read that question again to make sure I'm clear, because I'm going to say something. Read the, sure.
Basically, when our taxes go up, that's when we have problems with affordable housing. So we need to make sure that our taxes are not going up at the end of the day. Thank you.
Got one.
Okay, sorry. But wait, she's the lady.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Can you please?
For me.
How can you call affordable houses affordable? Why does a person building a $350,000 with a minute cost my $50,000 home to get reevaluated to $200,000?
Let me answer the second question first. The reason why we have so many And I'll give an example. The reason why we have so many individuals in which their taxes are going up is because of the builders that are building in our community. No one has built a relationship with these individuals. I think that when things come across the desk through City Hall, it's not properly evaluated. And so you have people feeling like they have the right to come in our community and build and do whatever it is that they want to do. So I think that, again, and I spoke on this earlier, we need to make sure that we are building relationships with everyone or anyone that has a vested interest in our community. One thing that I will say that I did mention earlier is that, and I think someone said this, and you guys know it, everyone that looks like us is not for us. And so we have people right here in our community, people that are leaders over civic organizations that are selling us out. And I can't do this job alone. It takes you as constituents being able to get engaged. It takes me meeting with the super neighborhood presidents, the civic club presidents, and being able to educate you and you educating me. But we have people that are creating organizations to get money, and they're selling us out. District B is rich in history, and we're rich in land. And we need to encourage people to become builders. We need to partner with organizations such as NACA. They bought $100 million into the city of Houston. They opened up shop at Greenspoint Mall, and they got people approved for affordable homes without a credit check. They needed job stability. And those are the kind of partnerships that we need. But again, it has to take someone that has a heart to build those relationships, and someone that's going to be able to stand up and say, no, you cannot come into our community. You cannot build this. And number one, this is key, education. Talking to the constituent base, making sure that we're providing the information, and making sure that we have feet planted on the ground, we're solid, we're sticking to our word, and that we're committed. And again, making sure that you guys are engaged on the issues as well.
I think that the Harris County Appraisal District need to revisit their tax exemption. We have the same tax exemption for 65 years old. At some given time, we have to look at when there's homeowners coming in buying homes at $300,000, and then my home sit there at $50,000, and then you want appraise it at $200,000. There should be a cap on that. There should be some exemptions on those people that's been there for the last 20, 30 years. That all of a sudden that their property tax don't go up like that. Harris County can do that. That's just an old rule that they haven't revisited, and they're not gonna revisit it unless we put pressure on them to revisit it. As long as we don't put no pressure on them to revisit it, they won't.
No. Yeah. I can answer that. I can answer that.
That question was not a city council question. That was the question that was asked.
I can answer it though. That is. Okay, you want me to hand you the mic?
Yes, sir. I could, but I'm gonna defer to y'all, because y'all know what y'all doing. Answer, brother, answer, and stop pinpointing.
This don't work like that, man. This don't work like
You're gonna get worse out there when you get on the trail, brother. You're gonna get worse. Get on the campaign trail, you're gonna get it worse. So be ready. Come on, brother, answer. Well, we on the trail, yes. Come on, man. Come on.
I'll say something.
Come on, sir, answer.
It's a state question.
Yes, sir.
The state legislature, that's the issue. They decide, they pass it down to the counties. But you got to also understand, everybody uses the word property tax. Y'all talking about Harris County. It's 254 counties in this state. So there are some people that don't have floors at the schools that their children go to. So it's a different perspective, but everybody's trying to make this one size fits all. So his question is about my valuation of what I have when new things come in. That's called progress. But see, somebody had to explain to me, you need to know what the definition of affordable housing is. Not everybody that's poor, that's on welfare or SNAP is in affordable housing. Sometimes it's a young college student that can't afford anything, but she's going to nursing school. So when you want to sit back and say it is what it is, this is not good times. This is the real world. So an evaluation by Harris County, Ann Bennett, tax assessor collector, all of those things start at the state level. Because right now, the state legislature, when they decide the budget, are also deciding on appraisal caps, property taxes, and all that stuff. And you know what they do? They hand it down to the counties, and the counties turn to their citizens and say, your house is not as worth as much as it was the last go around. And bottom line, it's just math.
There's a middle man in there before they turn it over to the citizens, which would be you all, to advocate for us, the legislative advocacy.
The city is not the lead on this deal.
It trickles down to you all.
Correct. You're correct. It's commissioner's court.
It's all of that.
The
You
ci-
all advocate for us.
Sister,
And that's
sister, what's
it.
your name?
And that's it.
Professor Sandra, could you
Did we answer your question,
hold
Professor?
until the end, please?
I'm trying.
Could you? No, you're not. You're not trying hard enough. You're not, because you're the only one in here.
Everybody else is talking, but you want to pinpoint me. I'm going to.
Come on now. Come on. Yeah, we're running out of time.
What's the next question? What's the next question?
Next question. Woo wee.
Yes, sir.
Let me get this to you.
Here go another question. It says, what tangible things have you done to improve our communities? As you know, let's, you know.
We only have one microphone, so we only have one. We only have one.
We had two, didn't
We did, but we don't now.
Okay, for me as an educator, I have worked on the mind, right? I've worked for 33 years trying to train young people how to think analytically, right? How to read, how to be engaged through what they read. So as an educator, most of my attention has been to making sure that my students understand the world around them. I teach history, and one very important part of their knowing who they are, of their engaging with the world, is knowing who they are. When I went to Smiley High School and taught for 3 years, I made sure that those kids read I had kids from every culture, predominantly African American and Hispanic cultures. And I made sure that they read books that were written by people who looked like them. When they were able to identify themselves in literature they read, they told me how they felt more confident in themselves as they learned about people like Maya Angelou, learned the struggles of various writers. So I saw those kids as an opportunity, the opportunity that I had with them. It was for them to grow up and go into the world. And I'm proud to say that I have students from that group that I taught at Smiley who are now educators in the North, it's HISD, but at Forest, what is it called? The middle school now that they've turned my high school into a middle school. I've made contributions in that way. I've also made contributions as a church member. The various churches throughout District B play an important role in sustaining and helping to sustain lives in various ways. Those of you who are pastors, I know that depending on the size of the church, your benevolence program may be a family if you're a small church, but if you're a larger church, it may be a program that you are able to sustain over months or over the year. But there are different ways that I've been engaged in as a church member as well in the community. But I want to say that when we talk about education, a lot of times people will see that as separate in some ways from the community, but when you are actually investing in the lives of students, and I'll say that anybody who is a teacher and also somebody who goes to church, about 20% of your income, 40 to 40% is already gone, because sometimes you're using funds to help kids in your class who may not have the supplies that they have. So there are so many ways that I have been involved, even without necessarily trying to count. But I know that education we keep mentioning that word even up here. It's key. Understanding the world around them, understanding who they are, understanding who their parents were, and knowing how to engage the community as as model citizens. This is something that I've attempted to do as a professor and as an educator for about 33 years now, and kids of all cultures. And I appreciate Alvin's mentioning the fact that we have people here from all over. District B is a lot more diverse than we realize, than some of us realize. We have people who speak Spanish, there are folks who speak French, there are people who speak Chinese, you name the language, it's all here. So when we talk about making contributions to the community, we have to see the community as a broad and multicultural community, and that's something that I know I've done throughout my life as an educator.
Next.
Tasha.
Oh, y'all can have a mic.
Okay, so of course I've done a lot in the community. After the tax day flood, there was a lot of people in Greenspoint, and ma'am, I'm from Greenspoint. I care deeply about Greenspoint. In fact, in District B, you have 40% of people in District B make under $25,000 a year. And so right now I'm doing research on the airport. I mean, you have people that's working at the airport that's on TANF, that's getting benefits. And so how are we making sure that the people that's working at the airport is getting paid at least $15 an hour? Because nobody can sustain a family on anything less, and that's a big moneymaker. But we were able to keep people in their homes after the tax day flood. You had Steve Moore, which is an apartment owner, which it turns out to be a great guy who owns a lot of apartments on Greens Road, and he basically was, gonna evict people because they could not afford to pay their rent because they were flooded. They were displaced, their cars was destroyed. So we organized and basically, came to an agreement to where he gave the people, the residents, an extension on their rent. Of course, criminal justice I'm real big on criminal justice. After Sandra Bland's death in 2015, it just sent shockwaves through me, because I remember I was arrested at one time on a traffic ticket, and no one should be going to jail on a traffic ticket. And so it just prompted me to really start looking at our local government. What are we doing locally to keep people in our community working? Because you have 60% of the people in District B are renters. They cannot afford to own a home. So how are we getting people back working? So we created a 7-point policy platform focusing on pretrial justice and connecting it to elections. Any candidate that wanted to run for office, they had to commit to certain policies like bail reform. Making sure that people that's sitting in jail, that cannot afford bail, that don't need to be there. And these are people that's, how many of you guys have had a traffic ticket? I'm sure, and you don't need to be in jail on a traffic ticket. The Harris County and the city of Houston spend $1.2 billion on our criminal justice system. $866 million goes towards police. And so, and crime is down. We don't need that many police. And so we need to divest from the criminal justice system and invest in our communities. And that's how we're gonna fix some of these roads and keep our schools up. And so part of the plan was to get people elected that's gonna advance bail reform. We got them elected. Now we have bail reform. Another thing we worked on after the reimagining of Metro, they was trying to shut down the 44 route of Acres Homes. We together, Fifth Ward Super Neighborhood, Kathy Daniels, you had Joetta Stevens and top members. We made sure that route stayed intact, along with some other reforms with Metro. So there's a lot of work that's been happening, and I encourage you again to get involved with some of these organizations that's advocating for our community, so that you are aware of what's happening and what's, how are we winning? Okay, thank you.
So things that I've personally done in my district. Number one, I've stayed in my district. I did not move. I didn't move back in to run for office. I've been here. I've raised my kids in this district. My children attended school within the Aldine ISD, and they attend school within HISD. I'm a board member with the College of Healthcare Professions. I created a pilot program that would allow children to engage in the healthcare industry, an 8-week pilot program, because as I stated earlier, we know that all children are not going to college. So what type of partnerships and avenues are we creating for our children for trade and vocational opportunities, so that they're not going into the streets or going and doing things that are going to land them into the criminal justice system? Sorry, I just got a little thrown off a little bit. Again, when I wake up in the morning and I'm advocating for people, I'm not paid to do that. I'll share a little story with you. My husband and I were going down Hirsch Road, and I told you earlier, I grew up in Acres Home, moved over here when I got married. He wanted to show me where Mickey Leland was buried. We started going through the cemetery, which you guys know as Golden Gate. I refer to it as Oak Park. Started going through the cemetery. The first thing I noticed was the weeds. And then we got to the back and it was all clean. I had a problem with that. I couldn't really get excited about seeing Mickey Leland just because of who I am. There's a young lady sitting on the front row. I called Tanya DeBose, and I know Tanya was sick and tired of me calling her. I'm like, we have got to do something about this. Now, I don't particularly like cemeteries, but on this day, I got out. Walked around the cemetery, noticed Rosalie Easter was buried there. Nat Q. Henderson was buried there. E.O. Smith is buried there. We have a Black Panther who's buried there. Carl Barnes is buried there. And that's a problem for me because we have legacy and history right in the cemetery that is in our community. So I organized a cemetery cleanup, and I did it on the weekend of Juneteenth. Now, when I did this, and some of you guys may not know, our cemeteries are no longer owned by us. So when you think that you're burying your people at Paradise and they have people look like us that are at the front desk, it's not owned by us. It's owned by a company called SCI. A lot of the funeral homes are owned by a corporation called SCI. You can look it up. Call SCI, went down and spoke to the people at Paradise. In a week and a couple of days before this cleanup, they went to go mow the property. And they didn't do it all. But then when they saw that I was going to stay on them, they asked, how can I help? How can we help? We got Keep Houston Beautiful involved. And so for the third year this year, we will have that cemetery cleanup. I'll give another story, a quick story, that involves senior citizens. We have seniors in our communities that are in need. I have a lot of experience in the foreclosure industry. We have a lot of seniors that are being targeted for reverse mortgages. What are we going to do to help protect our seniors that are losing their properties? So again, the things that I do, they are very genuine. I may not have the lengthy resume and the organizations in the city of Houston behind my back, but what I do have is the ability to genuinely fight for people without anything in return. I don't have to publicize what I do because I understand why I'm doing it. But the bottom line is I've been here and I've been fighting for people in this community for as long as I can remember. And the reason I'm running is so that I can continue that fight for all of the constituents within District B.
There are a lot of things that I've been a part of that have helped our district move forward. There are a couple of things I'm most proud of to be a part of, and that was not the repavement, but the reconstruction of Lyons Avenue. Had not been touched in 42 years. And what that did was allow some businesses and some houses to start talking about bringing their business our way. Also, there's a benefit to being on the inside, if you want to call it the inside. That while I was working for City Council Member Jarvis Johnson in District B, we had an opportunity. I see Fifth Ward Art and Coffee in the back. They'll appreciate this, that folks in this room don't know that Wheatley was not in District B. Wheatley used to be in District H. Through the process of redistricting, we drew the lines to put Wheatley back in District B. On the west side, Candlelight Trails, Candlelight Oaks, when we had those issues, when the Katrina flood hit, and that was one of those areas that we just couldn't get the property owners to comply with city ordinances at the time. We drew them out. They wanted to be out. They wanted to go back to District A. We allowed them to go, not allowed, but you know, there's a negotiation when you're doing redistricting. Now, here's a double-edged sword. Public safety is not always about law enforcement. Over in Wood Glen, on the northeast side of town, there's that subdivision back there used to have only one way in and one way out. Anybody from that area over here? No Wood Glen? So we opened a street because there was a gas leak one day and the folks that were in couldn't get out, and the folks that were wanting to see their loved ones couldn't get in. When we opened up Thorn Street, and we thought that this was a great gesture for public safety, the people of Wood Glen, some people of Wood Glen, were so pissed off at us that they were saying that now you're allowing traffic to go through because our children play basketball in the street. Now, let me say this. Don't have your children playing basketball in the street. You got more than one way in and one way out, and you look at that as a negative. Also, and folks, Etta Crockett and Thibodeau and the folks from the Acres Homes area will remember this. People did not want Joe V's. They wanted a H-E-B, big box store. And the key was this. We didn't have the disposable income to get a big box store. There are surveys that are done to get this done. And I was a part of that, and I really feel blessed to be a part of that project. Also, folks in my name, now you know people say, if you want to do something for your district, go start where you're from. Go do something where people know you and do your work. As a part of My Brother's Keeper, I go to Wheatley on Thursdays at 2 o'clock. Art and them do the outside, I do the inside. I see Brother Donnie Walker, he's a school teacher there. And we have gotten the Phyllis Wheatley student council. They didn't have that. They weren't involved in student government. So now that's there. I want you to know that we can all talk about what our accomplishments are, but how does that translate in what's best for this district? You know, infrastructure, how to identify a capital improvement project, take it from design to get it funded, then have it completed. You know, that takes some experience. So that's what I'm proud of.
All of my work has been done in the community which I live in, which is the Fifth Ward area. In 1991, I was with Conoco when we formed the Keep 5 Alive Cleanup. The Keep 5 Alive Cleanup ran for about 10 years. And as I stated before, a lot of my work been with the Civic Club. We put the marker up on Lockwood and Lowndes, and now everybody has a community marker. But I think that when I walked into the Houston Endowment, and I told them that I was the executive director of the UEC Health House and we wanted to build a wellness center. And I shared my relationship with the Health House as growing up as a youth. And I walked out of that door with $1 million check. Now at that time, the Houston Endowment had never gave a community-based organization $1 million. I believe my ability to go and work with the private sector and get money for our community without looking at the budget money for District B. It's what's gonna make me the biggest asset. I am real proud of that. Now, when you talk about what I do now in the community, see, don't let the suit fool you. See, because I have a landscaping company. We also power wash. And I hire youth, young men in our community. Now, some of these young men can't get a conventional job. But when they get on Mr. Ben's truck, there's some rules and regulations. You can't come with your pants hanging down. And when you talk to the customers, it's yes, ma'am, and no, sir. And you got to do quality work. You got to be able to take pride in the work that you do. Because I tell them you have to lead that home as if it was your own. And I pay them $10.50 an hour. Now that might not sound like much, but when you got 3 or 4 guys you paying $10.50 an hour, it adds up. So I have been an asset to my community for a long time. And all I'm asking you to do is elevate me. Go to my website, www.benwhite4districtb.com, and then see what I'm about. And allow me to be your voice. I'm a good listener. Let me listen to you. Let you tell me what you want, not I tell you what I'm gonna do. You tell me what you want, and I go to City Hall and I tell them what you want. Thank you.
Well, I won't be as long as my colleagues here. I'm not really good on embellishing. You know, that's just not who I am. I let my work speak for itself. You can go on www.robinjanderson.com and you can see that what I do, I invest into the youth because that's where the future is. You know, I volunteer at my son's school in a program called Watchdogs. And the DOG is an acronym for Dads of Good Students. So I sit in there and I watch some of these kids from Garden City homes, Garden City apartments they're bad, y'all. I'm gonna lie to you, they bad. But they need somebody who actually cares because sometimes they might not get it at home. They might need an extra hug or hey, good job or whatever it is, things like that. And so with volunteering, that's when I came up with the idea to say, hey, you know what? We have to build some community pride. So I came up with a thing called the Acres Home Tree Lighting Ceremony. Like I said before, it's something we have to, that can continue on. I pray to God that it's gonna continue on. It's gonna even after I pass on, because we have to have something that people look forward to bring us together. So like I said, I won't be long. www.robinjanderson.com. Look on there and see what I've done. And also there's like a little $5 donation button on there too. Thank you.
I am awestruck to be up here. These are some great individuals. Awestruck. I don't have the words. Did y'all hear some of the stuff they've done? And Now, the answer to my question, I've done nothing for this community. That's the truth. I've lived in Austin for the last 20 years working on legislation for people in various parts of this state. So if you ask me about a project, I come home and I'm the precinct chair. I come home and vote. I go up to Austin and I worry about legislation. But I come home and I look at my community. So my answer is very simple. Compared to these people, I've done nothing. But I want to go back because I'm stuck on the question earlier with this lady. I'm not stalking you. If you let me finish, I'll tell you, you did a good job because, no, we good. You did a good job when we do get out on that trail, we got to start answering the question. Because a day ago, I was sitting where you were, and I'm having issues with some of these answers because they're not answering the question. So out of respect for this question, I stand in awe. I've done nothing compared to what they've done. On the previous questions, I'm gonna go home too, trying to figure out what they were talking about. But other than that, all due respect, that's the answer to my question. I've done nothing for the community compared to the people that are sitting up here.
Well, I want to say one last question, but we're going to run over. Y'all mind running over?
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Me too. Okay, I want to ask Tasha, I heard her say something about TOP. What is TOP?
So TOP is Texas Organizing Project. It's a membership organization that organizes Black, brown communities to fight for policies within their neighborhoods. And so a lot of the members are members that live in the neighborhoods, and they create agendas, and we just organize each other and, fight for change. Mm-hmm.
Okay. One last question. Are you all, any one of you all, and just be honest, here not for us, but for somebody else, for another community? I don't know all the communities in District B. I'm gonna try to name them all. Fifth Ward, Trinity Garden, Cashmere Garden, Rosewood, City Gas, Pleasantville, Greenspoint, Acres Home, small part of Woodlands. Are you all here running for District B so that you can continue to do to us what others have been doing to us in the past? Now, this is a 2-second question. The answer is just yes or no. Or, because, when you look at City Hall and when you look at the governors, everybody that you and I have voted for, I haven't benefited from my vote.
Right.
I haven't benefited from. I'm a business owner too, and I got 4 businesses. And I haven't benefited from my vote. I've talked to most of you all. I've talked to Sylvester Turner. What are we voting for? Do we even need a city council person to do nothing? Because nothing is being done. So is your interest really District B, or is your interest something else, or someone else, or another group? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And I heard you say it's a 2-second question. I may take a little bit longer than 2 seconds, but not longer than 2 minutes.
Okay.
Is that okay with you guys? Or do you want me to answer yes or no? Okay. So no, I'm not here benefiting anybody else. I'm here to benefit the constituents of District B.
Ladies.
I am District B. I am for District B.
I am District B, and I'm here to just make sure our democracy works, that the community have a voice, they have a say, and they know what's going on in our government.
I am here for somebody. They inquired me to run, and that's you guys. But other than that, my interest is District B. I don't have any hidden agendas. My goal is to see our community, our district thrive, period, point blank. So, no, but anyway, I'm not here for anybody else. I'm just kidding, y'all.
No. No.
No, and my mama.
That's your primary constituent.
My mama.
We want to thank you all, especially, and the candidates, because one of these candidates is going to represent District B. Now, you got to remember that nobody up here can win without you. That's right. So now, if you came in here with a preconceived notion like some of you did, some of you came in here and your mind was made up. It's time for our community to stop suffering. So don't make your mind up because that's your friend. Make your mind up because District B needs you and I. Let's make our minds up not because we are right with Byrd or Ben or Tasha. Let's make our minds up and get our district back where it's supposed to be at. Let's quit putting people in office that don't do nothing for us, man. You know, and y'all better be thinking about this because one of these gonna be city councils. And it's a strong possibility that one of them gonna turn their back on us. But they got 4 years to turn their back. And we're gonna come back. And we're gonna make sure that person never sees another nothing. We gotta start voting. We gotta stop letting these brothers and sisters split our vote. Me and you gotta vote one. We can't be voting for one and one. We gotta vote one. Because District B is big and it belongs to us. You know, and we here because what? We're from District B. And so let's stick together. And I'm gonna call the pastor up and he's gonna close us out. Let's give him a hand.
Come on, let's thank Brother L for putting this on tonight and his group. Amen. If you don't mind, let's all stand. God, reveal your choice to us. Do not let the oil flow in the wrong direction. Bring us together, unite us in spirit and in community, that we may make of this place a better world. We ask it now, guide us and keep us until we come together again. Amen.